Hello, ladies. So here's what I wanted to do today. This is my kitchen, and this month, we are talking about kitchen makeovers. And so what I wanted to do was I wanted to bring you into my kitchen and give you an idea of some of the things that you should be looking at in terms of your kitchen and what I've done, and then how I can also improve on, making my kitchen a little bit healthier, as well as making it, an environment that does not lead me to snack as much on things that I don't want to snack on. So what I want to point out first is my countertops. And quite honestly, I have not done anything in here to prepare for this video except for clean up my dirty dishes, because I didn't think that you really wanted to see those. So notice first of all that on the countertops that I really don't have any snack foods. Now my husband just came back from South by Southwest and brought us some maple cotton candy. So that's like sitting on the countertop, and I just need to throw that away. But other than that, what I have is a tomato, which I'm going to be using for dinner later on this week. And then so if you don't have a fruit bowl, we talked about that last week or the week before. If you don't have a fruit bowl, I love snacking on these cherry tomatoes. They're so tasty and sweet. So again, you want to make sure that what you have out on your counters isn't going to lead to snacking. And over on that counter, we have wine and then just some corks. So I'm not necessarily going to be drinking wine in the middle of the day. Haha, I'm just kidding. But then, yeah, and notice that I don't have any cereal bowls or cereal containers or breads or sweet treats sitting out on the counter, because when you see that stuff, you're more likely to eat it. So where is all of that stuff? Well, if we go into my pantry, at eye level, I just want to point out that what we have here are all things that you wouldn't necessarily want to eat. Over here, I actually have some snacks. Those are actually chocolate covered almonds. But those are really kind of not in my view. So when I walk in, I look straight ahead. I'm not looking to the right. It's a little bit out of the way. But if you look, at the rest, so I have my Tupperware and, these are all baked good or things that I use for cooking. And then if you scrunch down all the way down to the bottom, I'm actually kind of on my hands and knees right now. This is where all of my sweet stuff is. So my protein bars, and notice that I have brownie mix in there, and then way in the back I have chocolate chips. So those are things that aren't necessarily going to be tempting for me because they're hidden and they're out of the way. What I use more often, these are my protein shakes and things that I use for protein drinks. So those are right center, at front and center, to make sure that I'm, thinking about having those first if I come in here and want that. So those are just some of the things that I do in terms of my pantry. Let's take a look at my other pantry. And in here, let's see, I have a light in here somewhere. There we go. In here, front and center, again, these are all things that I cook with. So my vinegars and oils. A little bit lower down, I have my canned goods. So I typically stock up on tomatoes. Those are, those go in so many different recipes. And then I have my beans over here. And then any overflow, I go ahead and put in the back, and that's where my my chicken broth and beef broth go as well. A little bit further down, I have all of my spices, so I try to make those easy to access. And I love these little Lazy Susans. I swear to God, when we we kind of organized our pantry a few years back, and we spent some money on getting these Lazy Susans, and they've completely transformed how I keep myself organized. And yeah, I so love those. But here's the anal retentive side of me. So this is actually a magnetic whiteboard, and each of these little containers has a magnet on the back of them, and we've gone through and labeled all of our spices. And I also have them alphabetized, which is actually kind of funny because when house sitters come, they always seem to put things back randomly. I don't know that they realize that they're in alphabetical order, but I digress. So this is just another tool that I use to keep myself organized in terms of spices. Now, just a little piece of information there. With these, I found that they weren't overly useful, and I've really kind of gravitated back towards using just the containers that come from the grocery store. But what I do is, because I'm looking down at this, I actually write the name of the spice on the top. Another little thing that I've started doing is there are some recipes that I really enjoy. And, you know, whenever you make a recipe for a rub or something like that, they usually take like a lot of spices. And so when I want to make that recipe, I yet generally don't want to spend an additional 5 or 10 minutes making that spice mixture again. So if there's a specific spice mixture that I really like, what I'll do is I'll make a whole bunch of it and then use one of those existing containers, an empty container, and then use my my label maker to label that, so that I know that I have extra of that. And that's a huge time saver when it comes to the kitchen. All right, so that's my second pantry. So let's take a look at my freezer. And not necessarily my freezer inside, because what you want to do, so I'm fortunate enough to have a second freezer. And what I do in my second freezer is I put all of those things that I don't want to be tempted by. So what you'll see in this freezer is actually, I have a ton of grass-fed beef that's down here. I don't think you can see it very well. But I also have my ice cream and additional sweet treats that I don't necessarily want to be tempted by. I also have frozen cookie dough up here. And so I don't necessarily think about those things because they are so out of the way. And this freezer really does, you know, it helps in terms of having additional storage. Okay, so let's take a look at my actual refrigerator, and I can show you some of the things in there that I also do in order to help make myself successful. So first thing is that I stock up on protein sources. So right now you see that I have a ton of eggs, and then down here, this is something that I always have on hand. It looks kind of gross, but what it is it's a rotisserie chicken that when I get it home from the grocery store, I immediately process it, meaning that I take all the bones off and I put it into the Tupperware immediately. And what I'll typically do with that is I'll snack on that, sometimes for lunch if I'm not, you know, if I don't have anything specific. The other thing that you'll notice is that I have vegetables here. And what this is some leftover spaghetti squash, and then I have meatballs. So everything that's here at eye level is healthy and good for me. And so what that means is when I open up my refrigerator, I'm looking exactly at that. Now up here, You caught me here. So, but that's Gary's. That is leftover pizza. And so, yeah, I'm not actually going to eat that. I'm not going to be tempted by it, just because. And then if you look into my produce drawers, I went to the store and I got apples. We have tons of green veggies and stuff that we can have with our dinner. And then in the lowest section, I'm actually keeping my protein bars in here just a little bit out of the way, so that I don't overindulge in those, because that's something that I can typically do. And then over here we have our meat. And I've been on a bacon kick lately, but in any event. So I just wanted to show you, let's see what's in the drawers. Oh, so we have milk and egg whites and plenty of water, and then just condiments in the upper portion. So a pretty standard refrigerator there. And then in the freezer, let's take a look at that. Okay, so in the freezer, I do have some gelato, which I really enjoy. And then everything else is basically frozen vegetables. I have some bananas that I stick in the freezer when those seem to get old. And then in the bottom portion, we have just some leftovers that I've frozen, and then also some more vegetables. And I keep my nuts in the freezer as well so that they don't get rancid, and then some jumbo shrimp. So in any event, that is exactly what is in my freezer. So I hope you've enjoyed this tour today. Welcome to my home, and I will see you soon.